Make them feel that the mere fact of a personal desire is evil. Bring them to a state where saying, "I want," is no longer a natural right, but a shameful admission.
That was from Ayn Rand's book, The Fountainhead, and I believe she touches on something that gives the current debate about opening the economy and our normal life a certain spin. We are seeing a polarization because of mistrust. And justified mistrust. There are just too many people that seem to enjoy the lockdown, that seem to enjoy the poverty of others. And I found an article talking about this extensively. This is relevant because up until recently we kind of were, let's say, open-minded enough to put out our different ideas of what restrictions can be lifted and what additional restrictions may be necessary to lift more cutting restrictions on different ends. We were approaching this problem for quite some time in a rational manner where people had different views and they were not party aligned. For instance, Steve Bannon and Jürgen Fritz, a German blogger, they believe in crushing the curve. And I mean, I do not believe this myself, but I kind of understand how this can be one approach that I would not lose focus on as well. I mean, this is kind of what I also try to consider as one option. The idea is that if we can cut the problem short, even with big sacrifices, like throttling the entire economy for now and restarting it afterwards, if we can bring it to a quick end, even with big sacrifices, that would be better to linger around in a half-dead state for too long. This is the idea of crushing the curve, of cutting the things, the chase short. And it has its supporters on the conservative side. But by and large, we see the left being for lockdown and extensive lockdown with actually no horizon. The more conservative people, by and large, are rather on the let's just open anything side. I also have discussions, or hear discussions here. Some on the left want to open everything, not the economy so much, but everything else as soon as possible. And I see a worrying lack of priority here as well. They would go into public transport first because CO2 emissions from cars, and they would go into kindergartens and childcare facility first because feminist women and so forth. Quite frankly, these are virus-spreading machines. You can find somebody to look after your children, even if you are a feminist. So we have these opening everything, no matter what group, and we have this shut down everything for as long as possible group. And in between, it's really difficult to kind of continue an adult conversation. I'm trying to figure out the specific measures that make sense and what don't anymore. So I have stumbled over an article that shows there is too much joy in oppressing the economy and other people. And it was called, Do I Need This?
Bring them to a state where saying, "I want," is no longer a natural right, but a shameful admission.
Coming after the Western economy on the demand side level, and this is how it is approaching all of this. It's in the economic terms, but also speaks about wishes and wants, and how consumption is evil in itself. And it gives away a lot of the mindset and why the left is smelling blood right now. They hope to overcome capitalism. The article was written by Elisabeth Raether, who is a low-level writer at ZEIT Online, and if it were just her that had signed up to it, I would not even spend time on that article. She is a feminist writer who had put out a lot of cooking recipes and then the social justice warrior stuff. So this is this intense mix of, women can't just make as much money as men. There are just no differences. There's nothing that speaks against women being in the office all day long. And also, I spent all my day thinking about what food I could eat and how to make it. So if it were just for her, I would not really consider reviewing her article and taking it apart. But it really touches all the strategies of the left, or let's say a hell load of strategies of the left to undermine Western civilization. And it was co-signed by the deputy editor-in-chief of the Resort Politics, Bernd Ulrich, as well as by Mark Schiertz, who is the economics and politics correspondent in the main office. So this is these are high-level people on ZEIT, and ZEIT is an extremely influential paper. It has quite a few readers, and also it is the go-to paper by the elites. It's kind of the Washington Post. Not everybody reads the Washington Post, but the people who have power and who ultimately change your life do read that shit. So they start out, or she starts out, I think she's the main pen, by saying that the entire aggression that we are facing with the debate about opening the economy is not so much driven by people being desperate about not paying the rent and so forth, and the credits defaulting, etc. But she thinks that the lack of consumption could kill capitalism, and that were the hidden worry behind the noisy economy opening rage. And then she expands on the economics by saying that liberal Adam Smith and Karl Marx agreed that the target of any capitalist reduction is consumption. That's a bit stupid because Adam Smith died in 1790 when the word capitalist did not exist. The word is actually a smear. It is an insult invented by Karl Marx, and it means everything leftists don't like. It never had meant something specific. It always meant everything. Capitalism is everything the left does not like. And she continues with a weird sentence that I think tells it all. In a subsistence agriculture, everybody produces what he needs. And I just wonder, okay, does she want a subsistence culture? What does that even mean? Does she really want that everybody plants his own food? And the issue with the left has always been that they never specify their alternative. So she may know how to bake a cake, but she doesn't see how she can actually grow all the ingredients of the cake in her own garden, plus the medicine that she needs to grow older than 40 or 50 years of age. You know, these are important questions for most of us to answer. But for her, her horizon is probably very limited. And so she just spends one sentence sounding like somewhat of an alternative to capitalism, and goes no further. So she's moving on to destroy what is there, that people produce more than they consume themselves and get in exchange stuff they cannot produce themselves, the market. So the market has a demand side, and she says that in subsistence agriculture, everybody produces what he needs, independent of the wishes and wants of society, which sounds like a liberation if you have not thought it through. So she as the consumer climate is in a historic low, says the Market Research Institute Society for Consumption Research. The buying ambition is in a free fall. Thoughts are somewhere else. This is actually the only place where she puts in real life concern, of ordinary people who fear for their jobs and for their financial well-being and all of this. And she continues with largely, of course, because people are in the subsidized short-hour work program and fear unemployment. That's no real German sentence, and she has some grammar issues anyway. So, but it pertains to thoughts are somewhere else because of real life distress, and it's not just because of a cultural awakening, and people notice that they do not actually want what they believe they want. And then she continues with the sneering.
Laughter is an instrument of human joy. Learn to use it as a weapon of destruction. Turn it into a sneer. Don't let anything remain sacred in a man's soul, and his soul won't be sacred to him. Kill reverence, and you've killed the hero in man.
And then, of course, she tries to undermine wishes and wants of man, and to sneer and degrade it in itself. So she writes, "We realize that all holy things can be destroyed by asking loads of questions." So this is her ambition. She wants to destroy. Why buy a car if I still have one that drives? What is the reason why I want to have 10 pullovers? So we're starting with a sneering. It gets ever worse. She also even admits that she is sneering, or that this kind of criticism is condescending. But what shines through is that she actually does try to control everybody else. She wants to determine what your basic needs actually are. Maybe you just need flour and sugar and so forth for a cake. You don't need somebody else to bake it. You don't need machinery to bake it and so forth. She wants to determine what you need, and she thinks she's able to. She does not want a free society where you have options. So she moves the entire economic debate into cookie land, into religion, psychological problems, and so forth. So it's all just mental, and the religion in itself has already been defamed by the on the left anyway, and the demand side is kind of unreal, and it's just something in your head and a mental problem to be discussed with your shrink. And so she writes, growth, as we noticed now, has because it is facing lasting questions with a global civil religion. It stood before the bracket in China, in Brazil, in the US, and in Bangladesh, and it was outside of serious debate. And that sentence was so strange, and she follows that up with a metaphor bracket again, that I looked up the German word Klammer. I thought she meant something else. There's maybe some organization or whatever that I don't know. She's very educated, and I just don't know the word Klammer or bracket. No, actually she means a bracket, kind of like you can count and calculate whatever you want, but that is something like a minus before the bracket that changes everything anyway. It spoils everything. Growth spoils everything. It is always there and cannot be seriously discussed. Why do people have to produce more than they need at a given point in time? Why do we need medicine when we can just go on? She continues with the result of the secularism of this religion will be huge. And by the way, she is not using the real definition of the word secularism, which is the separation of church or religion and the state. But she is kind of borrowing from the Jewish definition that we usually just mean a bit less, okay, a bit less religion. And she, of course, wants to have just less growth. I don't understand why she is bothered by other people having improving their lives, because growth just means you get something better. Growth just means affluency. Growth just means people are happier. She continues with the result of the secularism of this religion will be huge. The world has to reinvent itself. We need, so to say, a kind of general assembly before the bracket. A general assembly before the bracket. You can imagine I had to look up the word bracket. I mean the German word Klammer. And she wants to discuss the disposal of economic growth, of people having better options and improving their lives. This is what she wants to destroy. And with her, the leaders of the newspaper ZEIT. Should a world after growth actually form or being seriously discussed, it must be clarified, probably 1,000 times, because it's so hard to accept, she writes. God is dead. He was just done. Nobody killed him. Not the usual suspects. Not the environmentalists. Not the socialists. Not the growth critics. The feminists. Not the indigenous people. Not the social security hammock. Not the state with its tired weight. No, global capitalism has choked on itself. It's almost a pity. Of course, she does not feel pity. She shows her utmost contempt for your average person that wants to live in affluency, that wants to live in prosperity. And she tries to kind of victimize herself at the same time, like, I'm on the side of all these women and indigenous people, blah, 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 and we are not guilty of whatever bad things happen from now on. Yeah, okay, nobody was accusing the indigenous people of the coronavirus anyway. But whether or not we can restart the economy again has something to do with red tape. And of course, that is the fault of the feminists and of a lot of other people, environmentalists and so forth she had mentioned. The economy, your average person, is throttled by these people. And it really stands to ask, the question I always ask myself is, why are these people driven to destroy everything all the time? I mean, what is the hate based on? What do they believe? What is the reason? And I believe that Ayn Rand is right.
Don't allow men to be happy. Happiness is self-contained and self-sufficient. Happy men have no time and no use for you. Happy men are free men. So kill their joy in living. Take away from them whatever is dear or important to them.
And a part of this is that they take away everything people do enjoy and claim they would regain a better kind of joy.
Everything enjoyable, from sex to ambition to the profit motive, is considered depraved or sinful. Just prove that a thing makes men happy, and you've damned it. That's how far we've come. We've tied happiness to guilt, and we've got mankind by the throat. You must tell people that they'll achieve a superior kind of happiness by giving up everything that makes them happy. That's the oldest one of all.
And there are some people, like this terribly bored woman who is baking and cooking all day and just wonders what she can do. And is self-aggrandizing herself. She is probably thinking she can be everybody else and she can get a follower. She would do exactly what she commands to do. Use this ingredient, don't use that ingredient. And that she could direct what is necessary and what isn't, and so forth. That she should be the master of everybody else. And to do a way to do this is to take away everything people do already take. And to do this is to take away the ability of people. And to do this is to take away everything people do already enjoy and tell them that they get something in return one day that they will enjoy even more. This is an old trick, and this trade is usually fall. And this is an old trick, and this trade is usually foul, as Miss Rand. And this trick is usually... This is an old trait, and it is usually foul, as Ayn Rand has already pointed out. Ms. Raether writes, in ancient philosophy, eudaimonia is the... Ms. Raether writes, in ancient philosophy, eudaimonia is the joy that does not derive from things, but comes from within. The most beautiful things in life are for free, so says a bromide of human history. Of human history makes no sense in German either. It's stupid grammar. Or how much does it cost to be loved, she asks. And I must say, for a man, it costs quite a lot. For a man, it does cost quite a lot, because a woman only selects her spouse in terms of economic status. For men, love costs a hellload of material wealth. First, she tries to move this into cookie land again and writes, in psychology, the name is cathexis, assignment of objects. Actually, she means emotional assignment of objects. Different things like salad bowls, diamonds, couch pillows, sport shoes, and almost everything else too can be important. Memories and emotions stick, essential questions too. Who am I? What I'd rather be? Am I respected? Does life bring joy? Consume goods or concrete or specific bridges to highest ideals, says anthropologist Grant McCracken, whoever that is. So it's all in the mental ward now. One problem authoritarians have is that the higher happiness they promise you, must be so convincing that you must be prepared to give up the tangible joy of your life right now. And what the left had done so far is they had promised to allow you things, to give you freedom, so to say, about things that are forbidden for good reason. For example, you are now allowed to eat as much as you like. You can become fat like a whale. You can have sex outside marriage. You can't count your children. Great, we welcome that. It's no problem. You can take drugs and so forth. So they are things that actually hurt you. And so Ms. Raether has to go into the mooch promise level. If you don't work, if you mooch around, you will be better off. This is the kind of thing she starts with. She writes, life in tracksuit pants, unruly hair, but nobody cares. Finally, you won't miss a thing because nothing happens. That's how she describes the current state. The heads of government in a video conference, the whole deprofessionalization, the privatization. A child runs through the picture and wants something and see a person, ecce homo, that's see a person. The colleague is a human, the private is professional. What day in the week is it? So this is the paradise. She extends this to the promise that after capitalism, after growth, we just have less to do. One needs fewer people because fewer things have to be produced, or shorter working hours. So this is the idea. She believes everybody could work less, or at least that's the promise she makes. Of course, that's not true. We have broken roads. We have slow internet. There are a hell load of things about our energy grid that need to be fixed right now because of the Greens. They are destroying this thing. And, the basic infrastructure is laid to waste right now. There are a hell load of things that actually have to be fixed. There is no, it's not just about stuff nobody needs. And I'm sure these feminists, they actually know this. There's no way around that you can replace innovation, for example, and experience with, everybody just doing some stuff only a few hours a day. That's bonkers. And it's not just driven by stuff that we don't need. But like the drugs, like the prostitution and so forth, these people know how damaging their advice is. They just need these promises so that you give up everything that's good in your life. Other weapons in the fight against man and for the control of the human soul are derision and sneer. And interesting enough, she's actually admitting this. She says, hyperconsume or hyperconsumption can stand cultural criticism, which often enough has no more purpose than to sneer on the masses. Yes, exactly. This entire capitalism critic business is the business of some strategists that actually want to control others by authoritarianists, but it's also proliferated by people that are just arrogant fools, arrogant idiots that love sneering and mocking and so forth. So she is admitting that most of this cultural criticism, sneering, she is listening to that music, is mockery, is sneering, is coming from a dark place, and then she engages in it. She engages in it. So she writes, even ecological wars, it meaning consumption, can buy itself out. But one thing gets to it, the disruption, the sudden end of the Gregorian singing in the temple of consumption. Business is derided and is moved into the religion area, which is in leftist religion it's something already discredited. So it's discredited. A mall is like a temple, and we know already of temples that they are evil. You just have to use words that link those things with one another, and you speak of a consumption temple. And her sneering goes on with the question, is it just has never troubled capitalism seriously? Now the question of sustainability impress. Sustainability is the code word for the Green Party platform. You know, the capitalism is destroying the environment and the planet. No, the murderous question for capitalism is, do I need this? And you can really feel the joy, you know, and you can really feel that hate that comes out of this, you know. There is a joy in seeing other people suffer. Ayn Rand speaks about this in terms of how everybody is constantly made felt guilty.
Make man feel small. Make him feel guilty. Kill his aspiration and his integrity.
Those who only buy essentials are accepted, but economically irrelevant. The economy relies on those who buy needless stuff. The next one trashes the Green Party parallel economics, the feel-good economics, the organic food, the fair trade, and so forth. And she's identifying it correctly, and you see already she's probably smart enough to see through all of this, and still she does this on purpose. This is not a fool who's just fooled. This is an evil person trying to do evil. And so she writes, there is the sustainable the sustainable consumption, the promise of the manufacturer that their love is real and things last forever. You bequeath, you don't throw away. What a dream. There are tidy up coaches who help to deal with one's possessions. The realization lingers on. Things have often become a burden. This is kind of her social echo chamber. This is the kind of people she is surrounded with. We do actually have, in the Western world, tidy up coaches. These are people who tell idiots how to operate a trash bin. We have, I think, an underlying problem of this entire authoritarianism and the consequences we see right now, economically and in many ways, is that we live in a society where meritocracy has been suspended, and you advance yourself by applauding the richest and the most powerful people, usually part of the state. At least that's the case in Europe. You have to suck up, then you advance yourself. So we have a lot of people with a lot of money, usually paid by taxpayers or pseudo taxes. We have mandatory contributions for a variety of things in Europe. That these people are paid by people who are forced to pay them, and they are dumb people who are bored and who are too dumb to operate the trash bin. They cannot use their time. They have now a lot of spare times on their hand, but they cannot see the problems around them that they could solve. They just are bored. They are dumb, and they need people to tell them what to throw away. And this is the kind of milieu Ms. Raether is operating in. And what strikes me is the complete removal from your average person's struggles. These people are totally removed from your concerns. And that's why they constantly mock your concerns about immigration, for example, about your future, the economy, and so forth. They constantly mock you because these people have too much money, which they get on the point of the gun, you know. So she's actually speaking about her own milieu, but she's trying this as a club against everybody who has deserved his holiday and so forth. And she writes, many have already achieved the humanly possible in clubs on Mallorca, holiday trips. All kind of drugs have already applied to all bodily orifices. All bank holidays have already been booked for travels. Kitchen gadgets already exceed cooking skills. So this is, of course, again, the feminist that could theoretically just be a scientist like everybody else if it were not for the patriarchy, and also she is really, really obsessed about cooking. Last but not least, the longest continuous rant about how evil you and I am. All habits have gone with the arrival of the epidemic. Handshaking, travels, appointments, and meetings that looked so urgent before. There was suddenly no normalcy anymore. No, I always used to do that. The purchase of inessential stuff had always been a mystical act. So again, you're in cookie land, the churches, blah, blah. And thus also a bit fragile. Not a natural instinct, but a formed longing, or a created longing, only possible as long as everybody else did it. And this is an outright lie, and I think she must know this. We are mammals, so to speak. Every animal tries to get hold of as many resources and stuff they can use. This is the normal habit. This is normal. This is how we survived winter for millions of years and so forth. This is a natural instinct. It is a natural instinct. Likewise, men are different from women and so forth. We do have natural instincts that have evolved over millions of years for good reasons. And it is not advertising and the capitalism system and blah, blah, blah that makes us buy things we like. And, continuing from that sentence, she becomes even more aggressive. I mean, with this, if not everybody else would do it, you would not even know to do this. Okay, so she goes on with, you are actually an idiot. If she continues with, or if one relegated thinking to advertisement, which only tries to allure to one product, but in total woos for consumption as such, producing an economic phantom pain every day and every second. So how dare you, wishing to buy what you want, organizing your life how you want it, accruing wealth and prosperity as you want it. How dare you, having growth, produce more than you need right now because you see that you may need something in future that you can produce on your own. How dare you? This is I think that the poison that is creeping up this entire opening the economy debate. There are people that really do want to destroy everybody else, and they are making use of this. We are now in a new situation where we have to find out what helps, how good in the fight against this disease, and how much we can move out of the restrictions. What to do next. And in this novel situation, people are susceptible to authoritarians. This is why freedom-loving people err on the side of rather allowing too much and risk death through virus than giving into the totalitarians. I don't want to generalize over these risks. You have to be aware of both of these risks, the economic risks, the medical risks, and the risks of the authoritarians, the cultural risks that are associated with the current crisis. You cannot ignore one risk and just run a fool on the others. You have to be aware of everything that's going on right now. That's really difficult. That was it for today, and I'll see you soon. Bye.